Good day, everyone. For today's presentation, I will be discussing about collisions, social networks, and viral change. Before anything else, let me present the learning objectives. So first, understand the concept of the guiding collisions, social networks, and viral change. Second is realize the importance of guiding collisions, social networks, and viral change. And third is a comprehend example of this organizational behavior. As a little recap, we must remember that organizational behavior seeks strategies to improve workplace effectiveness and seeks insights into creating a competent and efficient work environment. It is important to take note that these behaviors are crucial in assisting organizational change. Guiding collision. Major organizational change are difficult, if not possible, to achieve in the most scenario. There is usually a need for a strong driving force to maintain and manage this change. This is where guiding coalitions come to life. To give a background on guiding coalitions, Dr. John Gutters defined the term as a team that can direct a change effort within the organizations. It is an effective change-making team that gathers diverse ideas from various people through the organizations, directing the efforts into making significant positive change. To have a concrete examples of the need of for guiding collisions, let's take these two scenarios to compare. The first scenario involves a monarchy of some sort within the firm. As a remarkable individual guides his company smoothly through his own means. The CEO has an executive committee but instead then functioning as a decision body as if they are the advisors to the CEO. This CEO will brainstorm by himself and disseminate the information as needed. This method works well when the circumstances were more forgiving and less hectic. Over time, as the industry moved at a faster pace, this method of decision making proved to be inefficient as more complex decisions were needed to be made, which resulted in the isolations of the CEO in his attempt to push harder and make decisions by himself. At this point, it is not long before this monarch retired. The second scenario is that staff talking to the boss into putting an officer in charge of a task force which includes various people from different departments and outside consultants. These groups, however, does not include top individuals in the order. Due to the enthusiasm of the task force officers, these teams makes progress for a little while, but the progress slowly deteriorates as the members see that his cause has little chance of success, and they can use their time better on other things. In the long run, the team became dysfunctional as more people become less involved in the cause for a change. So what is the common in these two scenarios? Both scenarios never took into considerations the speed of the market and the technological changes. It may be true, but the methods applied of them could work in a slow space market where competition is limited but it cannot cope up with the more robust changes in the modern market. Today's world demands fast-paced processing and novel decision-making strategies. It is impossible for one singular person to make all the decisions while taking into considerations the demand of his subjects as well as in the market. In this case, there is a need for a team that consists of capable and trustworthy members that could bring about a major transformation effort. To put together an effective guiding coalitions, the six characteristics needs to be present within the group. There are six characteristics of guiding coalitions. First is the position power. There must be enough key members with the capacity to influence others to not hinder the progress when others are left out. Second is the expertise. Various points of views must be considered in the terms of diverse criteria, example, nationality, work experience, disciplines, and etc., to make intelligent decisions. Third is the credibility. The team must contain individuals with a good reputations within the firms so that they will be taken seriously by other employees. The fourth one is trust. There must be as transparent communications within the team to ensure that the trust is sustained enough to engage in the risky decision making. The fifth is a common goal. An ambitious vision that benefits all the stakeholders must be established within the team. And lastly is the leadership. The group should have enough team members that are proven to be leaders to effectively drive the change process. Leadership within the team is extreme importance as if it dictates the movement of the change. A guiding coalition is made up of all managers, even those with excellent managerial skills, who cause major negative change efforts. That kind of the team will not only brings about plans, not visions, and will not have the ability to drive the start of the change. In this case, there are three methods that firms to do address the lack of leaderships. Bring people from outside into the firm. Employees with the potentials to lead are promoted, and employees in the positions that demands leaderships are encouraged to do so. No matter the means, the result must have a team with a member who has a leadership skills. In contrast to the desirable traits that needs to be present in the guiding coalitions, there are two kinds of individuals that should be avoided when creating a team. The first is the type of people who have inflated egos. People often have large egos when they are at senior levels in organizations. Most times, this kind of people does not have a realistic views of their assets and liabilities, have a greater interest in their own self-indulged agenda, and cannot appreciate the capabilities of the others can provide. Having a central member with these traits in the guiding coalitions will most likely be destructive for the side coalitions. The second type are snakes. There are people who have compromised the team's trust among members and could in the turn compromise the entire team's trust foundations. They damage the trust, a crucial as aspects making an effective guiding coalitions that can be result in withholding of the informations from other team members of the team. Reluctant persons could also be avoided when making guiding coalitions. When a person is fully engaged in the coalitions, he may be cause delays in the decision-making process. Take for example, a person who performs well in his designated managerial areas who is forced or coerced into signing the coalitions. Through he is too much influenced to the not included within the group, he could be a passive player in the long run. This behavior could be detrimental to the change process since there is always a need for urgency in the ever-moving pace of the trade. Guiding coalitions generally employ team members outside of the senior management and thus does not have the conventional hierarchy. This presents a diagonal representation of a firm of which staff from the higher positions involve themselves with staff from the lowering positions. From these arrangements, there are more diverse points of views within the group, thus giving away to more information from people of different expertise that could potentially be the driving force to start the change process. Social networks and viral change. It is a truth universally accepted that an organization cannot work with a single member alone. There will always be a need for assistance from one member of the organizations to other. Guiding collisions provide such an environment as this. This group of people is as formally structured as it is informally with the use of the social networks. Social networks are social structures that connect individuals through different forms. Due to the inventable human traits of wanting to bond with the people around them, social networks are present everywhere. Some, if not most, of these social networks work through interdependence in common interests between two parties. For example, a social network can be made between two employees who have an affinity for a book that they enjoy reading. Similarly, networks can be formed between those of same background, nationality, expertise, kinship, and many other factors that give them a sort of connections to the other party. Even though it may seem that social networks are simply shallow connections among members, it plays an important role in the influence of communications between said members which can contribute to the success of organizational change. These social networks value trust, support, and other form of goodwill among the team members, thus encouraging networks members to share resources amongst each other. There are several benefits of being a part of social networks in the organizations. One of these is that communication between individuals in that network are easier than those outside of it. This could be the network members an upper hand, especially when one of the higher hands is within the social circle. Another benefit is increased visibility. When a member is asked to recommend someone for a valued positions, a network member is most likely to be suggested more than those outside the circle. Additionally, networks provide an increase in a person's referent power. This is the power formed through respectful interpersonal connections. This is caused by the network members' willingness to put trust in the people of similar values within themselves. The number, depth, and variety and centrality of connections determine the power of an individual within his social networks. There are different types of ties that a person can have within his networks. Strong ties develop close-knit relationship that is evident in the number of resources and shared as well as the multiple purpose relationship we have with them. This kind of ties could offer resources quicker than those that we have formed weak ties with. Weak ties are connections that are made with acquaintances, most of which are different from us. Ironically, weak ties provide more resources for us since these people possess information that we do not have compared to the shared knowledge with people in the same interests as us. Furthermore, by being a link across networks, there is an information flow from networks that are not directly connected to ours. In this way, weak connections provide more value in information hunting and can be used in seeking out new opportunities. Another factor contributing to one's social capital is that the person's centrality within the network. The more important an individual is within a network, the more power he gains. There are three aspects of one's centrality, namely the betweenness, the degree centrality, and the closeness. Betweenness refers to how many persons you relate to the network. Degree centrality indicates the percentage of how much connected you are the team members in the network. The more connected you are with more members in the networks, the more fluid the information flow is. Lastly, closeness is how direct the connections is with an individual to the last members of the network. The closer you are with others, the quicker they are affected by you. As you can see, person A has a high betweenness, closeness, and degree centrality, while person F has a low betweenness, closeness, and degree centrality. Social networks are not always closely linked to each other. There are exist structural holes, which are gaps between networks cluster. When an individual becomes the only existing connection between two clusters, he is more likely to have more value than other members of the networks, since he controls the flow of information between two independent networks. Having great power does not come without consequences. When people feel empowered, they have the sense of independence from being influenced by others. Being empowered increases motivations, job satisfaction, and ultimately job performance. However, it can hinder individuals' ability to emphasize and make correct judgments. On the other hand, having so much power gives way to the sense of responsibility over those that you influence with it. There are individuals with this other type of powers who tends to be more mindful of his actions. In connection with social networks, there exists a viral change process that supports change initiative with the firm. The most common forms of information disseminations with this viral change are word of mouth and viral marketing. This occurs as information provided to a cluster gets spread through the networks based on friendship or on a person's social capital. As mentioned before, the higher your social capital is, the more people you get connected with, the more influence you have on those networks. It was also previously stated that trust is evident within the social networks, and thus members of the said networks have stronger bonds, and most often any information shared within are most persuasive than any other means. Social networks in transforming organizations. How can it change organizations? Similarly, social networks could prove to be effective in transforming the organizations through the adaptation of behavior from people of key influence. Due to the nature of reputations and connections, when an influential person changes his behavior, the people surround them will inevitably change their behavior accordingly. For example, when a person of influence starts doing something routinely throughout a period, eventually those under the influence of the person will follow suit. One concrete example of this was the Alps Ice Bucket Challenge, where celebrities dumped buckets of ice water of themselves to promote Alps awareness. It wasn't long before common people who follow these celebrities did the challenge themselves. This goes to show that to be successful with any initiative, having sufficient information on the social networks of members with high social capital can prove to positively accelerate change within organizations. And that's all my topic. Thank you so much for watching. And here's my references. Have a great day, everyone.